everybody, Sean from Movie Assault here, and it's time once again for another entry into the Halloween 15 for 2025. This is episode 6, and this is where I take a look at, you would call it Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from 1931, and I would call it Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde until I saw the movie and realized that that's not what they call him. It's not Dr. Jekyll, it's Dr. Jekyll. Apparently, looking it up on the internet, Jekyll is a Scottish name, and Robert Louis Stevenson actually pronounced it that way as well. So I learned something by watching this film. But Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I may lapse into pronouncing it incorrectly, and forgive me if I do, but this is the Warner Archive Blu-ray that I watched for this review. And this film was directed by Ruben Mamoulian. I'm not familiar with the director's last name. It's written by Percy Heath and Samuel Hoffenstein. Of course, it's based on the story by Robert Louis Stevenson. The movie itself stars Frederick March as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Miriam Hopkins as Ivy Pearson, Rose Hobart as Muriel. I love these names. Back then, you wouldn't find names like this as stars. Holmes Herbert as Dr. Lanyon, and Hallowell Hobbs as Brigadier General Carew. This movie's been on my radar since I was a little kid, and there was always Frankenstein and the Mummy and Dracula, and there was always Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And there's multiple versions. There's the Spencer Tracy version. There's the older version that was made in the 20s. And then there's this version with Frederick March. And I knew of all of them, but I never saw any of them from beginning to end until I sat down and watched this one. And I'm glad that I waited until I was an adult, because I, as a child, would have found this movie boring as hell. And that is not a bad thing. It's not a boring movie. It's just more adult than I would have expected it to be for something that is, passed off on Saturday afternoons as kid fodder. Because this isn't a kid's movie. By far, it is not a kid's movie. You probably know the story, or at least some version of it. You've probably seen, memes, if depending on your age. You've probably seen stories that have been inspired by this story multiple times. Apologize, my air just kicked on. You've probably seen all sorts of things that have been inspired by this from the original Robert Louis Stevenson story, where somebody has basically split personalities that are brought on by drinking a serum or, some other manifestation of change. In this particular story, Dr. Jekyll, Dr. Henry Jekyll, played by Frederick March, he believes that man has two sides, a moral side and an amoral side. And he thinks that if you can split the two and basically offload that immoral side from the moral side, you would lighten the load of your good side, and you wouldn't have to worry about what your bad side would do. So you'd always be good all the time. So he's creating this serum that he can drink that will do that. Well, what it ends up doing is it unleashes this side, which is his amoral side, which he gives the name Mr. Hyde. And the story turns into basically him fighting with his libido, basically. And this is something that I wouldn't have understood as a kid. It wouldn't have made any sense. Yeah, it would be good and evil, but the story itself is Dr. Jekyll fighting with the ability to wait to get married, or diving in and quickly satisfying his sexual desires with a prostitute who is played by Miriam Hopkins, this woman named Ivy that he meets as Dr. Jekyll. So it's really fascinating that this is a movie that is usually pawned off as kid fodder. It's just hilarious. So There's also a kind of a domestic abuse allegory in here too. So this is a lot deeper than you might give it credit for, and I'm glad I saw it as an adult. Um, and to be honest, this is a 1931 film. I was frankly surprised by how sexual this film got. The back of the Blu-ray talks about how there's 17 minutes of footage in here that was restored to this version. I don't know what, I didn't see 17 minutes that looked like it needed to be cut out, but I was surprised by how sexual the film was. And by today's standards, it's pretty tame, but Miriam Hopkins shows quite a bit of skin, mostly leg, but you get to see some side boob. I mean, really? For 1931? For an old motion picture, it's pretty raunchy. Frederick March won Best Actor Oscar for this. He tied with, I'm forgetting who now. He did tie with somebody. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. And I feel his performance was definitely worthy of that, because I actually had to check to make sure that Frederick March played both parts, because they are so dissimilar and so not like each other. And I don't mean that in the obvious way. His mannerisms are so completely different, and his facial tics and the physical appearance is so changed by the makeup that I wasn't sure at first that Frederick March played both roles. I was too lazy to get up and check the credits while the movie was running, but I did have to check afterwards to make sure that he did play both roles, and he did. And another thing about this film is that the camera work is exceptional. There's a lot of point of view shots from this. Right from the beginning, there's a point of view shot from Dr. Jekyll's perspective, and he's getting ready to go out, and you see some mirror shots that had to have been done, had to have been very difficult to perform with the type of cameras they had back then. So the camera is always moving, it's very fluid, and I just think that's very interesting for a film from 1931. When you compare it to films that came out in that age, usually the camera is pretty static, or it just pans from left to right. This one, the camera is moving all around, up and down. It's very interesting. And there are little visual flourishes throughout the film that just kind of keep you on your toes, and you go, oh, look at that, that's kind of cool. And of course, the special effects in this are spectacular. The transformation effects came before Werewolf of London that I reviewed last year, which came out in 1935. This predates The Wolfman, which came out in 1941, and it had to have had some influence on both of those films, because it looks very similar, and in some cases it looks like one take. So it had to have been done with lighting effects. There's a thing going around on Facebook that you may have seen, where it shows from 1937 this witch changes her face due to lighting, and it's just this woman changes from just looking like a regular woman to she's missing a tooth and stuff. And they use some of those lighting effects in this to enhance the transformation from Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde. It's really interesting. And then they do some of the sort of like, progressive photographic effects. But this one did it first. So very interesting. So even though we've probably all seen a version of this type of story where, duality of the person split, and, one side of the personality takes over the other side, this is a really good telling of that. And I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I was more impressed by this than I thought I would be. I thought this would be a sort of a safe, classic horror film. It's not scary in the sense that it's, gonna make you curl up in a ball on your couch or anything, but it is scary because, it shows what somebody is capable of on both sides of the fence. Somebody who is good is just as evil as somebody who is evil all the time, if that makes sense. You're capable of being very good and very bad. And it's the same guy. It's just, given your decisions, you could do both. So really, really good movie. And surprisingly, this version has been called by many critics the best one. Again, I haven't seen the Spencer Tracy version, and I haven't seen any of the more recent versions. I've only seen this one, but this one is damn good. So definitely check out Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I told you I would flip back and forth. So there you go. That's my review of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And as always, I'm appreciative if you made it this far in the review. Thank you for your attention span. As always, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for checking out the video. Thank you for checking out the Halloween 15. Stay tuned for more movies coming up this month. And take it easy. See ya.